About a year ago I made a video on growing out my gray hair, which was a 1-year update, and now I am officially at the 2-year mark. Once you get into it, it starts going by really quickly, but it is a very slow process. So I'm about here in natural hair growth, and that took 2 years. So for anybody who is curious about how long it takes, this is without trying anything. No magic potions, no special hair vitamins. Yeah, I just went with it, and the average person only grows about a half an inch of hair per month, so if that's what you're working with, this is kind of what you can probably expect, because I think my hair grows at an average rate. I even wore the same sweater that I was wearing in the last video, just for like some contrast, I don't know. Anyway, so I thought it would be fun to do a gray hair tag. It was from Nicole Johnson and Mr. Kong's mom. So I'm gonna go through the questions. I plan on doing a hair cutting video soon because I want to just like cut this off myself. So if you have any questions, please leave them below. I would love to answer anything you guys want to know. But yeah, actually, let's do a little update first on the hair. Now my hair is not fit to be this length really without a lot of finessing. Like, this is all my hair from the back. It's just very fine hair. It's not really thick enough to pull off like anything much longer than this. So I do really want to just chop it and get it over with. So we have, I would pretty much describe the top as salt and pepper. There's still some brown left in there. The lighting makes a big difference too, I find, on how it looks. I think it might come off a little bit more silver on camera, but there is some brown in there. Then we move to kind of the middle layer, and then you're just straight up silver. My hair is a wild ride right now. We have these blonde bits to cut off, but then, surprise, surprise, I've actually seen a lot of people who have this kind of similar thing going on with their hair. Is like, for whatever reason, the underneath near the back stays the natural color for longer. So yes, this is my original hair color, which is brown, some shade of brown. And yeah, there's still a lot of it back there. So let me just do a little brief overview. Here we go. We'll go to the side. I'm gonna try to spin to the back. This is so awkward. And this side. Oh, my knee. Oh, my knee. Oh god. Okay, time for the cues. So number 1, how old were we? I already can't read. How old were you when you started going gray? The first time I ever noticed one, I was 17 years old. I was working at McDonald's in my hometown. I was in the crew room in the bathroom on a break, and I was just like looking in the mirror, touching up my makeup a little bit. I think I had my hair dyed kind of a burgundy back then. I just loved to experiment with hair colors when I was younger. I like destroyed my hair with blonde too. It was horrible. Anyway, I digress. So I look and I just see like a pure white hair just like sticks straight out in my line of sight. Especially like the lighting was it was pretty harsh overhead lighting. And I was like, what is that? And I had to pull it out, and I'm like looking at it, inspecting it. Sure enough, it's pure white. And I was just like, okay. I didn't really freak out, but then, as I got a bit older, I would notice more and more People often ask me, like, at what age were you this percentage of gray? And I'm just like, I don't know. I always dyed my hair. It wasn't really something I was doing to hide grays at first. It's just something I like to do. So I don't really know. I guess, yeah, I don't even know what percentage you would call this right now. So I don't really know how to answer that question. But yeah, I'm currently 32. How old were you when you started your transition? The first time I believe I was 28-ish, maybe 29. At that point, I was dyeing my hair dark a lot, and then the roots would be very noticeable to me. So then I was kind of like, well, maybe I should just be blonde. Wow, I'm such a bad storyteller. I'm just like, so then, anyway, I thought maybe I should just be blonde because I had experimented with blonde a lot too. But then the thought of like me trying to dye my own roots at home, it was just too much with blonde. Like it's very easy, I think, to dye darker roots at home. But blonde, especially if you're gonna try to bleach your roots, it's just very difficult. And I have never been someone who likes to go to the salon consistently. I've always liked to dye my hair myself, so I was kind of like, this would be a good time to just try this. I think I lasted about 8 months, and then I decided I was gonna try to look for a different job, and I was just actually worried about having the roots and being in the job interview process, so I dyed it. And then a few months later, I don't know what came over me, but I was like, I want to be blonde. And then once I was blonde, I had that feeling again of like, oh, I just want to grow out my hair. And blonde was kind of like the perfect starting point to grow it out because I wouldn't have to worry about having very visible roots with the black hair and the silver against it. So that's when I started the second time. I think it was a 30, maybe. Yeah, 30. Yeah, that makes sense. 32 now. Okay. Just making sure my math is correct. Did you go to the hairdresser for help or did you go cold turkey? I went cold turkey once I had already dyed my hair blonde. I think that the best thing to do is to go to the hairdresser just because they can help you with a plan, like depending on what your color is. I think if I would have had like something closer to this brown, I think it would have been really nice to just go and get some highlights and have them tone it like a very ashy kind of, like try to make it close to silver, like a very ashy color. And I think that would give you a very nice blend if you don't want to go fully blonde. What was the reaction of your family and friends? No real reaction. Everybody that I told was like, oh, okay, cool. My boyfriend doesn't care. My brother's funny. There'd be times where we don't live in the same city, so I don't see him very often. And every time I would see him, he'd just be like, what's your hair color right now? And I'm like, I told you I'm growing out my natural hair color. I'm like, this is my natural hair color. This is blonde. He'd be like, okay. But every once in a while, he'd just look at me and be like, what color is your hair supposed to be? And I find the same thing would happen with my mom when I'd see her. She'd be like, oh, so you dyed your hair again? You're not growing it out? I'm like, no, Mom, this is my natural hair color. It's like if it looked more brown, she would think that I had dyed it. She's like, oh, it looks really nice. I didn't notice. I thought that was like dyed. It's funny. My friends, I don't have a lot of friends, so no concern there. My one friend, he was like, oh, your hair's silver now. Are you trying to like get it that way all over? And I was like, oh, this is actually like my natural hair color. I'm growing it out. He was like, oh, cool. And then I had seen another friend when things were safer last year, and he didn't notice either. He was like, oh, I thought you just dyed your hair that way. And so everyone so far has thought it looked cool, or they haven't cared. Number 5, your favorite thing about being gray. My favorite thing about being gray is just, I think it's cool, and I feel like it's almost rebellious in a sense, which was kind of the spirit I had when I was first dyeing my hair. Like, I didn't want to be me, I wanted to be different than me, I wanted to be cool. But now it's like, it's such a beauty norm and expectation that women are just cover up their gray hair. So if you're younger and you're prematurely gray like me, it's like, wow, really? You're gonna, what? You want to age yourself? Like, you're too young to have gray hair. So I feel like it's kind of like a rebellious thing, something where you're going against the general standards in the beauty industry. So I like it. And to me, I feel like it's my signature look. If I could describe myself as having a signature look. Yeah, I just feel like more like myself. Like, I look at it and I'm just like, this is me. This is me. This is cool. 6, what is your least favorite thing about being gray? I think my least favorite thing is sometimes the hair texture is a little annoying to me. Like, I noticed that my hair is a little bit frizzier than it used to be, which I didn't really have a problem with that before. So that's something new to deal with. And I feel like I have quite a few baby hairs now. I don't know if that's connected at all. And a little bit more breakage. Like, I use a pomade now to try to like smooth some of the hairs, but it doesn't bother me that much. 7, do you receive a lot of criticism about your hair? If so, how do you deal? No, I don't. I've never received any criticism for it in real life. I think maybe a few comments here or there on YouTube of people saying like, oh, you're too young to do that, like, why are you growing out your gray hair, or it's gonna age you. And I'm just like, what's wrong with aging? That's one of those things that we really need to kind of fight back against and break our, I mean, I still have it. Like, there are times when I'm just like, oh, I don't want to look old, and then I'm like, what's wrong with looking older? I mean, it's like it's a privilege to age in a sense. There are a lot of people who didn't make it like later in life and they would have liked to, you know? So if you make it to the time in your life where it's normal to have gray hair, like, that's good. So why, I don't know, why do we need to be young all the time and be youthful? Like, there's good things about being older and being wise, having lived life. I don't know why we're always chasing youth. It's strange. And how do I deal with it? Anybody who is like very rude to me on YouTube, I just block them because it's like, I don't need to see those comments. Number 8, what is your favorite compliment that you have received about your hair? I've actually received a lot of cool compliments. On the first video I made about a year ago, there were a lot of people who surprisingly wished that they had this color hair. They said I looked ethereal or like a fairy or like some anime character that I don't have any knowledge about, but I thought that was pretty cool. And then in my day-to-day life, there was one time where I was on the bus and a guy, I guess he was looking at me. I mean, he must have been. I was not looking at him. I was on my phone doing something. And he was like, excuse me, I just have to ask you, how is it that your hair matches your eyes so perfectly? And I was just like, what? I think my eyes look more gray from the side. They're not like, I don't really know how they come off in camera, but they're more of a grayish blue. They can look quite blue sometimes, but I think certainly from the side they look more gray because you don't really see the defined, I don't know what the outer rim is called, but you don't really see that from the side. So I could see why he would say my hair and my eyes matched. But yeah, I was just like, genetics? And I said it in such like a dead way that I had to like go back and correct myself and be like, thanks, yeah, like, this is my natural hair color, I'm growing it out, so thank you for the compliment. He was like, oh, it looks like it's so beautiful on you. I'm like, oh, thank you. And then I was like downtown at a grocery store, coming down an escalator, and this guy was doing like credit card sales. You know, some of like the grocery stores have their own credit cards. And he sees me and he's like, I love your hair. And I was like, oh, thank you. He's like, look at mine, like mine's natural. And I was like, oh yeah, so is mine. He's like, what? It looks kind of purple. I thought you dyed it. I guess in some lighting it kind of reads purple sometimes. But yeah, we had a whole conversation about him growing out his gray hair. Like, he was young. I think he was probably a bit younger than me, actually. And he was telling me this story about how he, like, in quarantine, he just decided to grow out his hair, and he just stopped caring what other people would think about it, and now everyone tells him that his gray hair is cool. So it was a really fun experience. It made my day. We gave each other like an elbow bump when I said goodbye. It was cool. Number 9, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give anyone looking to start the process? I would probably say, as much as I want to say start the process as soon as possible, I would probably say think about if it's the right time for you, because it's definitely a long and difficult process. And if you have certain things coming up in your year that you know are something that you wouldn't want to have like a demarcation line for, or something that like you'd be self-conscious to have it, then maybe don't start. Like, if you're gonna be in, I know it's hard to say this in the pandemic world, but like, for instance, if we were back to like normal times and you were gonna be in a wedding and you just want your hair to look nice and not have like a big demarcation line, and like you're your sister's what is it called, maid of honor, you know, like something like that. If, yeah, think about timing. But other than that, I would say like start as soon as you can, because it's a long process, and the sooner you start the better. If you like keep leaving it and putting it off, 2 years down the line you could be at this length and be done with it, but you waited. So I think it's best to just start and go for it, because at the end of the day, if you grow some of it out for a few months and you don't like it, you can just dye it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just looking and seeing. So I would just say go for it as soon as you can, but do be conscious of like what you have coming up in your life too, that you may not want to have gray hair for. Number 10, who is your gray hair idol? I don't have one specific person, but I do like follow a few different people on Instagram, and I don't know, I just think like anyone who's doing it is just amazing, going against beauty norms and standards. So I would say follow Grombre. I never know how to pronounce it. Follow their Instagram account. It's at Grombre. And then you'll just see stories from a bunch of amazing women. You'll see stories from a bunch of amazing women who are going through the same process, and it'll definitely be inspiring to you if you're trying to grow out your gray hair. It's motivating, especially when you see someone who's like pretty far in. Yeah, I think it's pretty motivating to look at and be like, look, my hair could look like that. I just gotta keep going. I find that the first few months are the hardest, so it's good to have inspiration and see what your hair could look like. Because when you have like your hair, I don't know, about to here, it kind of looks like you just haven't done your roots, and it makes you feel, I don't know, a little bit self-conscious that people are judging, like, wow, she hasn't even done her roots yet. Not that they are, but they, you know, it just, that's the way you feel sometimes. So yeah, I love that Instagram account because it's just, it's like, it's girl power at its finest. It's lady power, it's woman power. So I enjoy it. Okay, that is all. I hope I answered the questions in a way that I don't know, I hope I was coherent, because sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm very introverted and I don't talk that often, and I didn't talk that much as a kid, so I blame myself for it. Sometimes I feel like I'm just not very good at stringing my words together. I'm good at writing, but when it comes to spitting it out, it can be difficult. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it somewhat helpful or motivational, inspirational to your own hair journey. And please leave me questions, comments below, anything that you'd like to see. What kind of content do you want to see? Because I'd really like to get back into making some content consistently this year. Yeah, I don't like my whole channel doesn't need to be centered around having gray hair, but I know that was probably going to be a popular theme now. So yeah, any gray hair questions you have, I'd love to answer when I do my next video, which will be cutting my hair off in front of you guys. So yeah, please leave me comments below. Alrighty, thanks so much for watching, and I want you to remember, don't just make up your face, make up your mind too, and I will see you next time. Bye.